The Silly Goose Gang Podcast.
Episode 43, Silly Goose Gang Podcast, and we're delighted to be joined this evening by Bert Sorin of Sorinex. So, Bert, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys. This is a treat to get to talk with some Scotsmen again. It's been a while since I've had the pleasure.
This is something that we keep hearing from our American guests, is that they're looking forward to speaking to some Scottish guys. Don't know why, but yeah, cool. Let's speak. So there must be something. You said off camera, but you have some interests. It seems to be an American thing where they really love to go back and look at their history and stuff. What did you see with MacArthur? Is that what you said?
Yeah, MacArthur. Yeah, so that's kind of far back in my lineage. But I did Highland Games for years. I was an amateur world champion, then turned pro and did that for a couple years. And so I've always been around the strength game for probably the last 2 or 3 decades. And so I was a Olympic style hammer thrower, and then going into the obvious choice after that, when you kind of done with your track and field career, if you're strong and you still love throwing things, then Highland Games were always something that I found interesting. And so to get to compete in the U.S. and then, of course, the strength world has such a root back all over the world, but the strength athletes in America it's a very heavy part of our culture. But obviously, that culture always goes back to roots like Scotland. So that was I'm a historian as well. So to get to do the full gamut was awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You just casually dropped in there that you were track and field, but you were actually a 4-time Division I All-American, weren't you?
Yes, yeah, I had a pretty good little run. So it was.
Yeah,
they don't
give one All-Americans as a participation medal. That's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you. I think I'm pretty proud of that, but I'm more proud of where I came from, because I was a non-recruited walk-on that had never seen the hammer before. So when I got there, it was. Did you ever see the American movie Rudy, like the football movie where?
Dude, seriously, I love Rudy. Gets me. I cry at Rudy.
Sure.
Notre Dame is my NCAA team, and I cry every time at Rudy.
Yeah. So my freshman year in college, they kind of jokingly called me Rudy because I was really skinny and I was horrible at throwing, and I just wanted to do it really, really bad. And then as I got better and better and better, then I started having a pretty successful career. And so, like, movies like that were always just, strangely enough, movies actually being a big influence. It's like, okay, cool things could happen if you work really hard, and they did. So that's, I'm proud of more from where I came from to where I achieved. So that's kind of my track career in a nutshell.
Well, you seem to have achieved quite a bit. Sorry, Ali.
On you go.
I was just saying you seem to have achieved quite a bit, Bert. So,
yeah, it worked out.
But it's not been a terrible life, right? You've done some crazy impressive things. So, I am fascinated with I don't know if it's a thing since getting older, but like I really love the process of being made and how they're made, and such a handmade thing. So with the company, something that's really interesting. And I've seen that you put a picture up just recently of you were like grinding something when you were super young. So it's something I love that that somebody who's been in like a family business and creating things, that's such a cool thing. So that's what I'm fascinated by. So
thanks.
Yeah, so that was that goes back to 1980. Is that correct?
Yeah, my dad started in 1980, and so I was born in 76, so I was a little kid. And so just being around it, walking around the shop and getting dirty and, told not to touch all the sharp things and don't look at the welding bead and all that stuff like that, the flash. And yeah, and we had Sorin playgrounds before Sorin equipment, so then we kind of ran both of them at the same time. So we always had a bunch of lumber in the backyard and building forts, and my dad would build these playgrounds for schools and things like that. So it was cool just being around that construction side of the world, and then learning to build things myself. And I wasn't sure that was what I was going to do. You know, when you're a kid, you think you're going to go be a professional skateboarder or like, you know, some other thing that's just fun to do as a kid, you know. And then later on, the love for it grew more and more. And then kind of my first love after that was being an athlete. But for me, that didn't even really happen full-fledged until I was in college. That's why I say it was so crazy that to be a average at best high school athlete, and then to kind of like to another movie, Forrest Gump, to kind of walk onto a, you know, an SEC Division I track team that was one of the best track teams in the nation, and unknowingly work my way into a position. That was when I kind of learned I learned a few things. I learned how to work and how to succeed, but also I learned that doing things longer and harder than most people creates the opportunity for doing the impossible. So that's what taught me that, I could do things that are far above what the expectation level of not only for people from me, but people, just average people in general. You could exceed that if you just don't listen to what everyone says, that it's semi impossible, and you just work really, really hard, and you do it for a long time. And that was kind of what I've said too, is like 10 years, you do something for 10 years. If you do it really hard for 10 years, you're going to be better than 90% of the people, because most people quit after 2 or 3. So just mathematically, you're going to be one of the best if you make it to the 10-year mark. And that's kind of how my life kind of has revolved after that. Was, you know, I don't really care how I start. It's, you know, when everyone else quits because they're tired or bored of it, or they've reached their potential, like, how many more years do I have in it at that point? And that's helped me in business, or in my strength and conditioning stuff, or throwing, or even my marriage. And, you know, just try to look at that same principle. Like, if I could just, you know, be tougher and be in everything for the long haul, that's kind of been my thing. So the long haul, I guess, is really the secret ingredient.
That's an interesting thing that you're talking about, the long haul, Bert, because sort of similar to you, I grew up around about cars, vehicles, trucks, all this kind of stuff. So, you know, like you, I was, you know, moving about workshops and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And, you know, exactly the same. Getting told not to look at the flash and a welder and all this kind of stuff, and, you know, moving all sorts of heavy things when I was a kid. And, you know, when I was speaking to my granddad fairly recently, when we were talking about businesses, was saying that nobody now, I don't know about America, but certainly over here, nobody seems to be building a business long term. Everybody seems to look to make money for 2 or 3 years, and then they go bankrupt and they'll just do something else. Whereas I like the idea of, like what you're saying, is longevity.
Yes.
You know, so, you know, and I did it. Hopefully we pass it on.
Yeah, your granddad's exactly right, and that's maybe a way that I was raised. It's almost like being rich versus being wealthy. And rich is I have a bunch of money in my pocket today, and wealthy is I have resources and abilities for generations. And that's kind of always been the idea. You know, people ask, well, what's the goal of Sorinex? I said, to be sustainable and profitable, and being a relevant resource for the community for a really, really long period of time. You know, it's not, if people say, well, what's your exit strategy? If someone asked me that the other day, you know, I'm 44, turned 44 yesterday, they go, what's your exit strategy for Sorinex? I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, you know, now you've kind of grown it, like, you know, you're going to sell it off. And no, no, that's not the point of this. Like the point of this is to create something that positively impacts the world for a long period of time while getting to do what we love. And in my opinion, that is winning. That is the point of it. Because let's say I had X number of tens of millions of dollars right now. What the hell would I do with it? Like, just sit at home and become a shitty person because I just would live in a life of whatever that is? That doesn't make sense, in my opinion. To some people, that might be fine. But I think your granddad was right. And there's the wisdom of those old folks that understand that there has to be some regularity to your life. There has to be some routine. There has to be a struggle. Once you stop struggling in life, you grow weak, and once you weaken, and then everything starts tumbling regardless of how much funding that you have. And you're exactly right. People try to make their money in 2 to 3 years, flip their business, come away with a bunch of cash. And like, I get that. That's a very good, aggressive business model if you don't love what you do. If you just want to do it to flip it and to make cash to eventually get to where you want to be in life and do what you want to do, I get it. But I've always preferred the relationships and the skill sets needed that are built during a long period of time, because those are ones that you can't take them away from you. You can't wash them away easily, because some friends I have and people I work with, I've been friends with for 25 years. We didn't just meet yesterday on LinkedIn. So I think people need to look at that, and they need to look at their own life and just make sure they're running a clean game, that 20 years later they could call up someone and they still have good social credit with that person because they've done a good job of being a human. That's my personal opinion.
One of it ties in with just what you said again there, Bert, is, when you've been doing something for a very long time. So I'm a little bit younger than you. I'm 35. But I've been involved in the same thing basically the entire life. And every time, if you're going someplace or you're doing, whatever, and you get in a situation where, whether you get stuck or you need something, I know people all over. So you can always phone somebody to say, how's it, I need to get this off you. And it's because you've built these relationships over a very, very long time, and you've always been good to people, and you've always helped people, and it will always, go full circle and help you out. And I really, really like that, part of life, when you have this little, but you're nice to everybody, and they'll always help you out, and you'll always help them out. It's a rare thing. It seems to be, becoming rarer.
Right.
Everybody wants to
as
take,
people
but
get
nobody
more,
wants to give.
and as everyone becomes more self-centered, it's all about, I got to get mine. What can I get? What can I get? But they don't understand that the more you give to the world, that's your insurance policy when things go bad. That's what a great amount of people will say. Hey, this, whether it's Chris or Alistair or Bert or whoever, they've always done good works, and and that's your, people talk about the stock market. I look at like the social stock market, like what are you putting into that society around you and keeping that valuable, that in a rainy day, I know there's 100 jobs I could get right now with probably 100 phone calls if I had to. And that's a nice feeling of security to know that I've done things in the world that have helped people and looked out for them, so that I don't have to as much worry where my next meal is going to come from.
Definitely. I always refer to it as personal capital. Your capital into your bank account as such. And if you're always take, eventually that circle is going to disappear. You have to go the other way as well as your personal capital comes in and out, as you say. You establish those relationships with other people. You nurture them. You keep them alive by, I can do you a favor here, half a favor for half a favor, and keep that personal capital moving.
That's exactly it. It's an economy, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not even sure I do what you were saying, Ali. I'm not even doing it, favor for a favor. I just do things because I'm, I just want to help people. If I can help somebody, I will help them. It's not like, if I give Bert a lift to the airport, well, then he's due me a lift. It's like, no, man, I'll,
No.
Give you a lift. You know what I mean? But yeah, not like that. It's just, if you help people, people will help you out. It's just, I wish more people kind of thought that way now.
Or maybe you help people and they help someone else out.
Yeah, exactly, man.
And then it just comes around,
Yeah, absolutely. Now I watched a video maybe last week or fairly recently, and it was you're talking about being alone, and if you're cold and wet and miserable in the hills and all this kind of stuff. Now, I genuinely listened to that or watched that 10 times. It's just it's something that resonates so deeply with me. I really love that. That I the hills will 500 pounds on your back, or being in the hills will fucking kill you if you so I love that. It always reminds me of the great Henry Rollins quote about 200 pounds is 200 pounds, so nothing else really matters. I love that. So you obviously do a lot of hunting. Sorry, I went all Scottish there. You obviously do a lot of hunting. So what? How long do you go on into the wilds?
Yeah, I do a good bit of hunting. I don't get to do as many of the really long trips as I would like to. Most of my hunts are day hunts and things like that, but still, it's hard to die quickly in that amount of time, but there are certainly times I could have. But we were hunting last year in Idaho, and it was 7 degrees Fahrenheit and high winds, and you get turned around out there in the mountains. We were tracking a buck through the snow, and you get turned around out there, you'd be screwed. And so that's what I just like, the unapologetic nature of nature as well as weights, because it is what it is, and it's up to you to prepare for it or not. And no one's going to hold your hand. No one's going to say, hey, you should have done your homework better. And I love that. And I think I talked about in that video, that Blood Origins video. There's so much, kind of going back to the societal sense of it. There's so much, as people call it, say, fronting or profiling, or doing something that you could be untruthful about your intentions. If you're doing a favor for someone, hoping to get over on them, or whatever it may be, there's always other things, right? Mm. But in nature and in strength training, the gravity and temperature and wind chill, those things don't care about you. They don't care who you are, what you are, how much money you have, how much people like you. None of that stuff matters. And so in a way, it's an escape at ways, because I'm not held to the same societal norms that I am on my daily life. And that's a nice break. I've seen some very famous and very powerful people outside that totally crumble because of those pieces of the puzzle. And I like that, because it levels everyone, and you have to be up to the level to survive. And and it's not always the most crazy hellish situation, but sometimes it is, and I like that. It's cool. And I know that the Scottish Highlands, the hills could get pretty rough up there as well.
Yes, they can. I was just going to go into this. One of my favorite things in the world to do is to be in our hills at night on my own, and just people think you're crazy, and to me it is the ultimate equalizer, because as you said in the video, if something goes wrong, something will probably, nature does not give a fuck about anything. Doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, how many people watch the podcast, or how much money I made at work that week. None of that matters. And it's such a good leveler, and very good to think about what's important. Was I a bit of a dick this week to somebody? Could I have been nicer? Right. Could I have done this better? It's such a nice peaceful thing. I would tell as Ali seen the pictures, I climbed sort of the highest mountain in the UK is Ben Nevis. I don't know if you know Ben Nevis. So I climbed that 3 weeks ago. At 4:00 in the morning for sunrise, and the pictures I'll send you after this. The sunrise was spectacular at the top of the mountain, and it's climbing it, the highest mountain in the country to yourself, climbing it in the dark for sunrise was so spectacular. It's I love it's so when you're talking about in that video, it just resonated so much with me. Basically exactly what I think, but you put it way better.
I appreciate that. No, I'd love to have a pint and and hear the story. It's interesting. I'll tell a quick story. Probably one of my favorite moments in my life, besides having my kids and being married, probably in the last 20 years, actually occurred in a similar situation in Newtonmore, Scotland, in July of 2007. We were there for the Highland Games. I was 30 years old, so it's 14 years ago. 30 years old, I'm in the peak condition. Like all these things. I'm running Sorinex. I'm doing the whole deal, and I'm really ready to throw. I trained all year for the competition. Went out there, had a wonderful comp day. Did all the things I wanted to do. Went out that night with the U.S. team, the Scotland team, and the whole nine. We had a bunch of drinks and partied and had the greatest time. And then so I was walking back to the bed and breakfast where we were staying, and for some reason I decided to not walk down the road, just to kind of cut through this pasture, which turned out to be much larger than I thought. And I had my kilt on, and I'm sweaty and probably beer spilled all over me and all this other stuff. And I was walking across this field with a big full moonlit field. I could see everywhere. And I'm walking around this gorgeous field in the Scottish Highlands, and I'm climbing these rock walls to get, kind of to cross these fields. And I remember thinking, as I'm climbing over these rocks, I was like, how old are these rock walls? Hundreds of years, probably. And I'm walking across this field, and I look up at the moon, and it was perfectly silent. And I remember thinking, not one person on earth knows where I am right now. Like my exact whereabouts. They probably know, some people know what town I'm in. They probably know I'm kind of around there. But that was when cell phones, like right before the iPhone came out, and you all of a sudden you were very, very connected to people. And I remember thinking, wow, in my adult life, this is the first time that I've been kind of anonymous. No one knows where I am. No one could get to me. And this right now is for me. I'm getting to enjoy this, and no one will ever see this situation through my eyes ever.
Yeah.
And I just stood in that field for a while because it was perfectly silent, and I was literally the furthest I'd ever been away from home. And I just sat there and I bathed in it, and it was amazing. And so many times, even today, when I get stressed out or things get hot and heavy with business or life or whatever, I just think back to that field, and I'm like, that was my happy place in Newtonmore, Scotland, in a field. And one day I'd like to go back and find that field again and walk through it and sit there in the middle of the night. But like you're saying, climbing that mountain, that was for you. It was, no one else was there. You weren't doing it for pictures. I wasn't taking a selfie. It was, this is my time, and I'm free. It was the closest to freedom I've ever had.
Yeah. What's quite interesting is, Ali seen all the pictures. I've climbed quite a lot of Munros here, and you take some really amazing pictures. I've got some really amazing pictures, but I also have that I purposely didn't take the picture. So exactly what you've just said, it's for me. This will never be seen anywhere. This is in my head. And I remember on this day, I climbed that hill, just sat there on my own, on these hills. So, like the mountains in Torridon are, I think, 400 million years old.
Shit.
This is my place for the day. It's just super cool. So it's nice to have the pictures for Instagram. It's also nice to just have the memories for yourself, because that's special. That's super special. So
that's changed so much, because obviously we're all very similar age. I was born in 78, so I'm 42 now. And a year and a half ago now, I was invited to a friend's 21st. And when you're 40 and you think, I can hang with 21-year-olds, and then you go to a place where there's loads of 21-year-olds and you go, fuck no, I'm too old to be here. But literally, I thought back when I was 19, 20, 21, mid-90s, early 2000s, and what we got up to. And literally, I'll use my daughter's phone because she's got it sitting here. But literally, everyone was on the dance floor, like looking at their phone. Every single person, apart from me and my mate who had been invited, and he's a couple of years younger than me. We're stood at the side just talking, going, what the fuck's happened in 15 years?
How did we lose this?
Jumping, sweating, literally girls and guys all just all with a selfie on, not even taking pictures of the scene, taking pictures of themselves dancing, every single one of them. And then they would come back to the table when the dance would finish, and then all sit down and go, or
right, and they're gonna post it.
the fuck's going on here? Like, live
worse.
in the moment. Live in the moment. This is your
moment.
21st. It's your friend's 21st. Live in the moment. But nah, they wanted to Snapchat it. They wanted to Insta story it. They wanted to put a boomerang filter on it with the espresso martinis knocking backwards and forwards.
I don't.
It's the worst.
I don't know what's worse. The idea of all these kids missing out on life because they're so busy Snapchatting, or Ali at 40 years old on a dance floor.
Let me tell you.
Well, I think that would have been awesome. So I'm going to vote for the kids being the worst.
For a 40-year-old ginger, I can fucking dance. Let it be said.
Well,
I love it.
I'm not looking to find out. I'm not looking to find out. So yeah. So is there any plans to get back over here, Bert? Is there any plans to come over with the family and have a look around about?
There hasn't been right off the rip. I mean, I came out to Germany and some other places in Europe a few years back. I'd like to get back out there and see Scotland through a different set of eyes. Anytime you're somewhere to compete, you have a pretty singular focus, especially when you're kind of at the top of your game. You're there to compete. I think we mixed in enough of the cultural stuff with it to have a great time, but still, we were there to win, and that's kind of the mindset at that age.
Yeah.
So I'd like to go there with my family or go over there and see it again, because you guys just have an awesome country. And it was just crazy. Like there was some the cultural stuff, because it was, again, one of the first time I'd been to Europe. So some of the cultural stuff was very enlightening for me, that I really enjoyed. Like, you guys party your asses off. And that was what I found was like, especially this was prior to social media days, or at least the heavy part of social media. Like when we were out at the dance club, you guys were getting with it, man. Holy crap. Like everyone was dancing their faces off. And it was just really, really cool to see that there was, in America, there's a lot of times like a little bit more of a kind of posturing when people are out, especially guys. But like your guys were just big smiles, having a freaking ball. And it was like, it was very freeing to go, okay, you could just really, let rip and have an awesome time. And that was really cool to see. And everyone was just so juiced up and happy. I was kind of freaked out that the town closed so early though. Like at 5 o'clock, you guys roll up the sidewalks, and the bars were like closed at 9 p.m. And I was used to in America not going out until like 10 or 11. And then you guys were closing at 9, but I mean, there's like 300 people in the town, so I guess there's probably not a big night.
Yeah, those small. I know Newton Moore very well. And there's not much there, so there's not like,
Right.
there's those places in Scotland. There will be places in America the same, but there's this beautiful little place. It's such a nice little place, but if you want a pizza, well, you can't get one.
Yeah.
If you want to go see a film, well, you can't see one because there isn't a cinema. Or if you're having a heart attack, well, there isn't really a hospital, so you're probably going to die.
Just start
dying.
What
I mean? So there's nothing there. But yeah, there are a lot of places. But one of the most fun things you can ever do in life, is go to a traditional Scottish ceilidh. And have some pints, and man, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. So that's something that's real cool.
Oh yeah, I did the Pleasanton, California Highland Games. There was a huge game, and then some of the big Grandfather Mountain here in North Carolina. And so, you're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of people camping out for a week, and just the fires going, and it was an awesome time. And then we did Stirling. Like I said, it had it was the William Wallace monument there.
Yeah.
And gosh, I was so drunk when I got to the place from the night before. It was the night before I was walking through the field, and then they woke me up at like 6 a.m. They're like, "We're gonna go compete in Stirling. Get in the van." I'm like, "All right." So I just grabbed my stuff and fall over in the van. And for like the first 3 events, I was so drunk and hungover, it was horrible. And then finally started coming out of it. I thought I was gonna pass out in the Porta-John. But it was a great experience. I thought that was a very Scottish deal,
That's very Scottish. That's a sporting event. That's peak Scottishness right there, my man. Peak Scottish.
I was getting there. I was getting there.
Did you experiment with Iron Brew when you were over here? Our famous soft drink.
We did. I do remember that. Yeah, for sure. And yep. And then we rode around the next day. We went to Braemar. We lifted the Denny Stones, the Inver Stone, and we did something else. I can't remember what it was. We did something else, a third one, but we basically rode around and drank you guys beer everywhere and chased all the strength goals and everything. And then went to some of the distilleries, and I guess the Dalwhinnie is very close. But it was really cool that, you know, when you win an event, they would give you a bottle of liquor. I'm like, well, this place is great. So
yeah. So from like Newton Moor, you're not, you know, there's like the Whiskey Trail, which is Speyside. So you're only, you know, from Dalwhinnie to Newton Moor, like Aviemore, Inverness. There's not, you know, 50 miles, and it's all just distilleries around about there. You know, it's you know, where whiskey sort of comes from in Scotland. But yeah, it's it'd be, you know, if you ever manage to get yourself back over here, you know, we could tell you all the cool places to go, take the family, and yeah, I think it's super cool when like Americans take an interest, like actually take an interest in like coming to Scotland and seeing things. It's super, like, it's not, you know, like, you know, you get some American film star comes over and goes to Edinburgh Castle and goes, yeah, I love Scotland.
Yeah, no, we yeah, we went around a while. Almost wrecked the van about 55 times, riding on the wrong side of the road and the wrong side of the van. And I finally got used to it. And then I literally almost died pulling out of the airport parking lot when I got home, because I went on the wrong side, because I'd been trained to do it for a week. I almost pull out into oncoming traffic. So I almost died twice. It was great. But it was, I loved it. What is it? Tennents? Is that one of your beers out there?
Tennents.
Yeah.
We call it. It used to be I don't know if Chris did, but we used to call it when we were younger, because Tennents for a while used to have a yellow can with a red T on it for the Tennents, and we used to call it Hulkamania in a can. Like, what you gonna do, brother? Like, knock down a couple.
Oh yeah, no, that was great beer. It was like a very velvety type beer, and I can't find it in the U.S. or even if Tennents is here, it's not the same. Like, on tap was incredible. Here's a question I have. So, do you guys tip your bartenders?
No.
Right. Okay.
No.
So I almost got a fight in a bar because I wanted to be a nice guy, and I tipped the bartender because they were, you know, I was super excited about being there and I wanted to pour into the local economy. And the guy like got in my face about it. He was like, "You think you're better than me?" I'm like, "No. Like I'm like, what's going on here, man? Like, I give you money." He's like, "You don't tip here." I'm like,
"This is
all right. Okay.
This is one.
I guess you don't like money. This is cool, man."
Yeah, this is one of the strange things. You know, when I was went to Florida with the family, you know, mom and dad when I was younger, and everywhere, you know, they told you what they expected in a tip. It's really quite rude. You're telling me what you expect in a tip. So what might happen is you may, you know, in a restaurant, you may, you know, sometimes you would leave. If you know, if a meal was, you know, £45, you may just put £50 in and say, yeah, just keep the change, it's cool. But you know, tipping is not something that's done. It seems it's you know, it's kind of like a soft version of, you know, the gun discussion. It's like, it's just something that seems so strange to us. Like, why would you give them money when they're doing a job? It seems so bizarre to us. It's like, why would you? That seems weird, but yeah, that's something that's
and I guess we're just and I mean, part of me says, well, why wouldn't we just pay the people more to do their job, and then they're you know, because what is tips allegedly stands for to ensure prompt service, and that's the, I mean, but then again, my point is like, well, why do I have to pay you extra to do your damn job, you know? But I also do like, you know, thanking someone extra if they do a wonderful job. So it's like it goes back and forth. But yeah, it was weird. So we kind of cruised in this bar in Newton Moor and rip roaring, having a great time. And I tipped the bartender because usually, like in America, you do that and you tip him well the first time, you're going to get, you know, great service. And then he basically almost got in a fight with me. I didn't understand that. 30-year-old idiot American, right? No, you guys don't like fighting in bars at all, I noticed.
Yeah, it's if you haven't been into a bar fight in Scotland, then I don't know what I don't know what's been going on. It's is that not really a thing in America, like bar fights? Is that not much of it seems to be like a
rite of passage?
Yeah, it's just like a
I think our age, right? Like 36, 41, 44. I think in our age it was like a rite of passage. You need to at least get in like 1 or 2 bar fights, like, just to kind of make sure that your defense is true kind of deal. But now it's a whole different animal. You take a swing, like you're going to jail, you're the whole deal, and it's not worth it. Like my thought now is like it's not worth fighting someone that 10 minutes before I didn't know they existed. Like, why am I going to go to jail for someone that I don't even like? If you told me, you're like, hey, you see that guy over there? I'm like, yeah, I never seen him a day in my life. Like, you're going to go to jail tonight because you hit him. I'm like, that sounds absolutely ridiculous. Why would I do that? So, that's more what I'm interested in. And then also at a certain point, you're like, okay, I don't need someone suing me. Because like the worst case scenario, worst case scenario really in a bar fight isn't that you lose. It's that you get arrested or tried for severely hurting someone. So it's like, wait, so I'm going to fight not even to win. This is an idiot idea at this point, Yeah. So I would prefer everyone just got to shove each other and buy each other a drink. That'd be great. Or if it was like one of my other favorite movies, I know not Scotland, more Ireland, The Quiet Man with John Wayne, with that super long fight scene for like 20 minutes, and they just buy each other beers during the middle of the fight. Like that sounds like a ball.
Yeah, the problem is, when you're in the bar, none of these thoughts go through your head because you're usually pretty shit faced, and it's just like, I'm going to fucking punch him. That's pretty much how it goes. But
I saw a really good meme just talking about American drinking, because obviously over in the States, Bert, you have to be 21 to legally buy a pint. Over in Scotland, officially it's 18, obviously, but everyone starts drinking at about 14. Genuinely,
well, sure,
about 14.
You guys are going to get in fights.
Well, but what I said was, it says it's weird that someone had tweeted in Scottish Banter, which is a brilliant social media page. It's just basically Scottish people giving random Scottish thoughts, and basically said it's weird how in America they don't get to drink till they're 21, whereas Scots are pretty much giving up at 21 because we spent the last 7 years steaming drunk every single weekend.
No, I'm with you 100%, and probably it's a good thing because like a 21-year-old man can probably do a lot more damage than a 14-year-old kid, and so you kind of get out of your system, right? And by the time you're like grown, you're like, we're going to have some probably pretty big problems here if we start fighting.
Totally.
But I agree.
Yeah. Don't mess with the young team.
I don't need. Hey, with Chris's arms, I don't know. I ain't going to a bar with him.
Oh, come on, man! You're a big guy. I'm just fight
anybody.
I'm just around. Well, no, there seems to be a recurring theme with Americans. It's always guys looking at my biceps. I don't know.
Well, you hang them out there like that.
It's never been a really good looking girl. It's always been an American man who's been.
It did. Was it Gail or was it Emily that was and Chris was like, "Oh, my arms aren't that big," and then was like, "Just roll the shirt up a little bit more."
That's good. Yeah, you have a certain lens that just like kind of fish eyes on the guns. I like it. I see. This is the fun stuff. I like my Scottish friends or whoever they were from other countries, just getting to razz each other about the idiosyncrasies between. I mean, I love when you guys make fun of Americans. That's hilarious. Like it's just good comedy, Like
I think all of the UK, particularly Scotland, because we're very good at taking the piss. But I think it's one of the you can have fun with Americans and you can have fun with Australia. But if you try and have this kind of a laugh with Germans or whatever,
not a funny group.
They don't find it funny. Like, why this is not funny? Why would you take why would you say this about me? It's It's a fucking joke, man. Fucking calm down. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's a cool kind of dynamic that you have with Americans and Australians as well. You can just fucking rip on each other constantly.
I think because all of us have been we've been all oppressed by the British, right? I mean, is that basically a scenario?
By British, you clearly mean English.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I guess that's a real thing. I
mean, nothing against those guys.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. And anyway, how can we get with this one? It was all Bert. We didn't say anything.
Why am I over here?
Goddamn Americans causing trouble again with the Brits.
Yeah, goddamn Americans. Yeah, fuck. But yeah, so are you still doing any competing now? Lifting, Bert, no? Are you still doing some competitions? Or?
No, I haven't competed lifting in a while. I think my last year Highland Games was maybe 2011 or 12. And I think I had my son right around that time. So then it was the family thing, and Sorinex started really accelerating, and I think at that point I'd competed for 15 or so 20 years straight. So it's like the body was like, all right, give me a break for a minute. And so I still lift and I still do, personal competitions and with my friends and stuff. But I just don't really have that drive anymore to go sign up for something and go and compete. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I know what the result is. I know how it works. But I guess really with me is I know the price tag associated with high level competition, and I'm no longer able nor willing to pay that price. I just did kind of the math on it and says, okay, if I'm going to do it, I want to try to be one of the best in the world. And I don't have that type of time, energy, or frankly, my body wouldn't allow me to do it anymore. So if that's the case, then I'm just going to do things I enjoy doing at whatever level. And I mean, who knows? Maybe 2 years from now, I'll decide to get into Olympic lifting. Who knows?
Are you one of these guys who has to keep, up in the you do something? Does it have to be something a little crazier, to the point where you go, I just can't fucking get any crazier than this now?
I am certainly someone who once I've tasted success, I want to challenge myself against the best, and just to see, that was the whole point of turning pro in the Highland Games. It wasn't necessarily the money. It was I wanted to throw against the best throwers in the world to see where I would stack up. If it was like, I've been a hunter my whole life, and do certain kind of hunts, and it's like, well, I want to do hunts that are more grueling, more difficult, more, I want to say exotic, but a little bit more extreme, and try to work myself into different positions where I get to test myself against not only the animals but really nature in general and just the environment. And that's so I guess from that mindset, it's always trying to get one more, right? Like up to 11 kind of thing,
This is the problem that I find when I'm booked to do anything. So I've done some marathons and triathlons and stuff, and you start getting to the stage where things start to get a little bit too crazy. You go, where do you draw the line here? When it's like some of the events, on hills in Scotland, and they come, they sell them as they have risk of death, and you go, okay, how crazy do you have to get before you go, this is fucking dumb? This is just this is some of the events you have in America, the fucking Moab 240, where it's 240 miles. You go, what? How the fuck?
Yeah, and well, I agree with you. I agree. That's where it gets to be the risk versus reward scenario, right? Like, do I want to go back to the price? Do I want to do all the things it's going to do the Moab 240? And then there's some people that 100-mile race is pretty easy, so the Moab 240 is just the obvious next step, which they live on another effing planet. Like, that's like the Cameron Hayneses and the Gogginses and the guys like that.
Yeah.
But they're just that level of crazy. and that level of, I hate to say skill, because a lot of, I mean, they're certainly skilled, but there's a lot of just discipline and just, I mean, Cameron Haynes is a friend of mine, and that is just a tough son of a bitch. He is just, he is as tough as you think he would be, which is, it's crazy. It's awesome. But you just go, okay, for it to be fun for him, he probably can't do the intermediate level stuff.
Yeah. It's funny when you're calling a marathon or a 50-mile race like an intermediate race to somebody like Cam Hayes.
It's wild, right?
Too easy for him. Too easy. It's a warm up.
Yeah, I've done quite a few marathons. I think 8 or 9, and that's horrible. The idea of doing 240 miles, it just seems like
insane.
Like how it's just like how the fuck. And one of the stats that was absolutely insane was when Cameron did the Moab 240. I think something like his last 10 miles was like 7.5 minute mile pace. Like,
of course.
And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, I can't even do the first 10 miles 7.5 minute pace on a marathon, and he's doing the last 10 on a 240. And that's so far and I don't. It's one of those things where if you tell that to a normal person, they will go, "Oh, cool, that's fast." But if you've actually done anything based around endurance, you just go, "That is so far beyond crazy." It doesn't even make sense.
It just doesn't even make sense, right? It just
doesn't make sense.
It's like another friend of mine. Do you know Laura Zerra? She was on that show Naked and Afraid, and it was like a survival show, right? And she has like the highest personal survival rating of ever on that show. And she's just an absolute freak. And this was probably 2.5 years ago. She went out into Montana, into the wilderness by herself, and she went shed hunting, which when the elk and deer drop their antlers and, they shed them. And then she walks around in the kind of snow, it's like in March, and she's looking for the sheds. And so she was just by herself, and she was walking. I mean, she did, 10, 15 miles a day. She was there for 2 weeks by herself, living off the land. And all she brought with her was butter and granola, because she would eat a stick of butter and rolled it in granola before she'd go to bed, because it would keep her out of ketosis and would keep her warm, because she had just minimal amounts of clothing. Well, she ended up, her feet got so swollen, she couldn't get her feet in her boots. So she did a lot of the days just walking in the snow with barefoot, and you could look on her IG. She shows videos of popping these blisters. They're just firing out this fluid, and like loses her toenails, and she's leaving bloody footprints in the snow. This is like, seriously, this is no shit. So she gets done like on a Monday, Tuesday, something along those lines, out for 2 weeks by herself, loses 20 pounds, the whole nine. I call her on Wednesday. I'm like, "How you doing?" She was like, "Yeah, there was a grizzly bear around there. I was getting a pack of wolves that were following me. It was really crazy." You're like, okay, so I was most likely not going to see you ever again. Crazy. And so like, "How your feet feeling?" I saw this video. She's like, "Yeah, they're pretty ragged." I was like, "Oh, cool. What you got coming up next?" She goes, "I think I'm going to run that Zion 50K. And I was like, "When is that?" She goes, "It's Saturday." I said, "Hold on a second." I said, some people, their lifelong achievement is to run a marathon. They train for it for years, and they're in top physical condition. You've been in the wilderness by yourself eating butter and granola and whatever you could find for 2 weeks. Your feet are in shambles, and you're about to run a 50K mountain race. Her response was, "It's only 50K. And I'm just like, wow, your mindset is it's only 50K. You've just decided I could do it because it's doable, and you've put away all of the it's going to hurt, it's going to tear me apart, it's going to do all these things. That's not even a fucking issue. Like, that's not even in the equation." And you're like, that just one sentence just rang in my mind for 2.5 years. It's only 50K. And you're just like, wow, if more people could view that as the way they look at life, then at that point, like, anything's doable, right? Is that 240? Is that doable? Well, I guess if you could take one step, you could take 2 steps. And if you could take 2 steps, can you take $1 million or whatever it would take to make 240. I don't know. I'm not that tough, but the mindset is there, which I think is just incredible.
That's so. I have to tell you this now, since you're talking about these crazy things, Bert. You'll like this. So, a couple of friends of ours, one of our friends, Fergus, does a lot of raising money for charity in November for men's mental health, and him and the strength and conditioning coach I worked with for years, they are doing. Starting on the 1st of November, so we talked about Ben Nevis is the highest mountain in the UK. They're doing 32 ascent of that mountain, which covers, I think, 540 kilometers and something like 30-something thousand feet. And they're going to finish up on the 11th of November for. We have Remembrance Day here, for fallen soldiers. So they're going to finish up there, and it's one of those things where I've done Ben Nevis, multiple times. The idea of doing it 32 is like so far. You like, real. Both of them are crazy. Fergus is. I think he broke the world lunge record last year. Actually, this is one of these things. He just recently, and Ali knows this. He did in one day. He did a 500-pound squat, a sub 5-minute mile, and then a marathon in the same day. And
Holy cow!
It's
that's incredible. Superhuman, insane. Yeah.
An insane, superhuman guy. So they're doing that in November. So I knew you would like that. It's just some of these guys have this, and it's quite funny because just like you just said, you're friends with Cam Haines, and he's a guy that a lot of people in this country who listen to Joe Rogan, they love Cam Haines because he's this guy who runs a marathon every day, and he's one of the best pole runners in the world and everything. And we kind of get attracted to the American side of it because it's kind of cool because he's American. But you go, we have these crazy people here as well, and
sure.
they're buddies as well. Like what the it's insane. Some of these people make me feel so lazy, like super lazy because I'm only doing an Ironman. They're doing fucking 540 kilometers. What the fuck?
Right? Yeah. It was. You might have seen the video when we did it with Cam when we did his gym deal. But we were staying there, and so he told me, he says, I'm going to do a marathon before work tomorrow. So he literally got up at 2 a.m. No shit. So he gets up at 2 a.m. and we met him. He told us where to meet him at 6. So at 6 we met him, and he had like a couple more. He got up at 2. He said he drank a thing of water. I said, "Do you eat anything?" He goes, "Nah." I said, "Do you bring water with you?" He's like, "Nah." He literally just took a big glass of water, or whatever the heck he drank, and just started running. He's like, "It's not long enough for me to need much more than that." And so we met him at like 6 a.m. He was on the road. He did an interview with us, kind of chatted it up, for a couple minutes. And then he's like, "All right, I got to finish this. I got about 8 more miles." And he just ran away, like this friggin' flying. And then so later he goes to work. So he gets done, showers up, and is still to work by like 8 a.m., does his job, comes back that afternoon. We put in his weight room. We do a workout together. And then we're doing a video series with him. We end up that night at 10 p.m. Now, he's been up since 2, has already run a marathon, worked a full day, put in a weight room, worked out. And at 10 and now done a video series. And at 10 o'clock, his phone buzzes and he looks down. He's a supervisor. And he was like, "Oh," I said, "What happens at work?" He goes, "Yeah, a water main just broke." I said, "Do you have to go to work right now?" He goes, "Yeah, probably." And I was like, "Oh, that sucks." He goes, "No, it's a great day. You get to work, right?" And I'm just like, wow, you just view it as you get to go work again. You like to work. And I'm like, holy shit, man, this guy's been up for, 20 hours of work. And it wasn't a big deal. It was like, oh, cool, I got to go do something hard. Guess what? That's going to make me stronger. Cool. And the mindset was just so intoxicating to be around. because you just realize you're so capable of so much more, and there's very few people living in that rarefied air that are actually exercising that ability.
So one of the things that's crazy, and again, unless you've done it, so having done a few marathons and not being, I'm not anywhere near that level, but obviously not unfit if you're able to do a marathon. It takes 2 or 3 days to be able to just walk normally again after it because everything's really sore. So again, if you have done something like that, but to do that doesn't it doesn't work in my head. It's
no,
like, well,
the math doesn't work.
This guy's like, oh, it doesn't have water, and I'll just go run. So yeah. So one thing that's interesting about that. So you obviously know a lot of incredible human beings, Bert. So does that impact you and your drive for the business and for doing your hunting? Is that something that drives you on to try and emulate these guys?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, we kind of talk about the thin air, and that, like, the thin air, in my opinion, it's the physical thin air. Like when you're climbing those mountains, like you're up there dealing this rare thin air that very few people get to breathe because they haven't done the work to get up there. And then, but I also noticed in legitimate terms, like when you're up there, if you run into other people on the top of those mountains, they're generally really freaking interesting, awesome people, because not shitty people don't make it to the top of the mountain. And so what I realized is I'm drawn to those breathing the thin air. And whether that's in physical terms of literally on the top of the mountain or just in life, whether it's the Cams or the Joes or whoever they may be, the people that have overreached above and beyond what is seen as their potential, and they're just doing some amazing things. And so yeah, those are the people that excite me, that I go, okay, Sorinex could do things never thought before possible in the strength world, or maybe a last pick kid from Irmo, South Carolina could maybe be a Olympic hopeful, or those are the things I get excited about, and so I try to chase down those people. Honestly, it's like I see someone like a Cam or a number of those other people, go, okay, they have this essence of something that they're doing that's amazing. I want to not only see that up firsthand, but I also want to be able to be valuable enough of a person where something that I have is valuable and wanted for them, that then there could be that exchange, Allie, that you talked about. Like, cool, I could bring this to the table, you're bringing this to the table, I appreciate you inspiring me, I could do this for you that makes your life better. And so for sure, that changes. People are where I get my inspiration from, and that's those amazing thin air people. That's the stuff, man. That's there's nothing I enjoy doing more, right, than being around that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I don't know whether what you want to call it, if it's fate or it's energy or something. But when you start to do, you're going to know this because you run a hugely successful company, that people become drawn to you and you get drawn to other people, and then all these like wonderful things start to happen because those guys, as you're saying, it's these people who you sort of meet the people you have to meet because you're all driving towards this ultimate goal of doing amazing things. And it's like, it's like sort of, I don't even know how you would explain it. It's like an energy draws us together, like, and and everybody, as they say, a rising tide raises all ships, kind of thing.
That's exactly right.
Isn't it? That's synergetic energy.
It's synergetic energy. And what people don't understand, that although most of those people in that thin air are extremely competitive, they're rarely competitive to the detriment of one another. Like, I want to see Cam kill it in life, and whatever I could do to help him, or Joe Rogan, or some of my friends that you might not know their names. And that's the thing. They don't have to be someone famous. It's just like, wow, he or she is doing something absolutely amazing. What can I do to help their journey? Because I want to see them succeed. And there's that other part of it that goes, I loved watching them succeed. I want to do my part and try to achieve that also, or even go further, but I'm still going to cheer them on. And then we get to cheer each other on. And that's the key to the whole thing. It's like, this isn't this guy wins, so this guy has to lose. And that's that immature mindset that people think it's mine. I gotta have mine, and that's their success will be significantly delayed if they continue to think like that. Once you can kind of move past that, that's when you really grow.
Yeah, it's been a step, isn't it? Just knowing that your win, Bert, doesn't diminish any win that I have or any win that Chris has. It's cool. You know, each other's successes. Chris is doing great, awesome. I love watching Chris do great. Bert's doing well. I love watching Bert do well. Doesn't take anything away from anything I achieve.
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris, how many marathons have you run?
I think it sounds weird, but I'm not really all that interested in marathons. I just like the challenge of doing them because I'm not built to run marathons. So, people look at you quite strange when you're lining up. Like, the fuck is this guy doing here? You know, I'm like 6 foot and 220. So like, I'm not supposed to be there. So I don't particularly like doing it. I just like the challenge of going, okay, I'll do this just because people probably think that I can.
Right.
Yeah, I've done like 8 or 9. But yeah.
Okay, so
I don't. Yeah.
You've done 8 or 9 marathons more than I have. If that is so, and that I think see that, and so that's the thing. It's like, okay, we're roughly the same size. You've done 8 or 9 marathons. I don't want to compete with you, but it inspires me to go, hey, Bert, I know you freaking hate long distance stuff. That's not who you are. But Chris has just proven that he's done 8 or 9, and he also dislikes it, but he likes doing hard stuff. So maybe that's something that you should do, because you're not competing with Chris. But man, that's badass to see that Chris is doing some awesome stuff, and I don't feel like I'm doing awesome stuff now. I feel like I'm doing other stuff. But a marathon is kind of sounds pretty amazing.
It's
so thank you.
One of the you know what, it's a very good thing that, you know, you get these ideas of things being you know, if you do these amazing, like, not amazing things, but if you do these cool things, like, it's going to, I don't know, you have this idea in your head maybe that there's going to be some like party waiting on you at the finishing line. And I did so last year I did the Ring of Steel. It's in Kinlochleven in Scotland, and it is not a marathon. It's about 18 miles. You cover 4 Munros, and it is fucking awful. And I remember it was the hardest thing. It was very warm for Scotland, and I had no water. I was having to divert off the track to go find a stream to get some water, and it was horrible. I remember crossing the finishing line thinking, that's fucking amazing. And you get to the finish and there's nobody there. Nobody's there to meet you. There's nobody, you know, nobody really cares. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where you do this thing and it's the hardest thing I'd ever. And I have to say, I had a little cry to myself.
Yep.
And there's nobody there. You go, oh, cool. So
you know, that's so interesting.
I got some food. I got some food and went back to my camper van and slept there and drove home in the morning. That was it.
That was it, right? It's interesting that you say that, because when I retired from the Olympic hammer throw, I remember thinking, because I had done it for so long, and you build up this story in your head that, like you said, there's going to be a parade or all these people there afterwards. And it's like, yeah, you know, everyone knows I'm training for the Olympics in 2000 and 2004. And, you know, my town or my family's pulling for me and all this other stuff. And you build up this thing in your mind. And in some ways I was certainly doing it for myself, but I was certainly doing it to prove to the world that I could, or prove to my family that I was good enough to, or to prove to, who knows, it could have been to prove to the girl in 5th grade that didn't want to be my girlfriend that I could do something that the guy she chose can't do. Like, it could have been any of that, right? And when I finally retired from track and field, I was my roommate. I went home, and he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "You want to go? He said, you want to go fishing today?" Or no, that's what he said. He goes, "You didn't go to practice today?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm done throwing." He goes, "Oh really? Why is that?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to train for another 4 years." And he goes, "Oh, you want to go fishing?" Like, it was literally it. And I thought about it. I was like, wow. I retired from going after 2 Olympic teams, 4-time All-American, like all this stuff that I hung my hat on, these achievements and this thing that I built up in my head that everyone cared so much. I was Bert the hammer thrower. And what I realized to my true friends was I was Bert. I happened to be his roommate, and we liked fishing, and throwing had kept us from going fishing because I had other shit to do. And then when I did have other shit to do, he was like, cool, you want to go fishing? It was that simple to him. And it was a very big lesson for me. Like you said, like I had to have those little cries by myself to think that my career was over. But for the rest of my family, they're like, oh, okay, well, you're not doing that anymore. Are you coming for Thanksgiving? Like there was no fanfare. There was no parade. There was no retirement ceremony. And then that's when I really realized, man, I better have been doing that for myself, because I sure as crap, if I thought I was doing it for anybody else, I was failing because they really didn't care. And that's something that I think people have to come to a realization of.
One of the, and I think you should try a marathon. One of the coolest things is, it's very similar to, deadlifting or squatting or, whatever you're doing, or, throwing a hammer.
No, deadlifting, squatting, and throwing a hammer lasts like 3 seconds. Like a marathon is a lot of pain.
One of the things that's always, I used to train at an athletics facility, and our friend Ian Mackey was an Olympian 96 and 2000 Scottish sprinter. And, I've talked to him in the gym before. It's like, I was doing 400 meter repeats on the track. So, I give me a marathon any fucking day and doing this bullshit. 400 meter sprints is the worst thing that a human being could do. So, yeah, but one of the things that's amazing is you will know this when you do a marathon, Bert, and when you lie in your bed at night and you go, it's the best feeling in the world, because it's like such an achievement to run 26 miles. It's so cool to be able to lie in your bed at night, after you've
I need to
had
do
some
it.
food, and go, yeah, fuck man, I did that. I mean, you've got the perfect coach. Just phone Cam and say what the
what do I do? And no, Cam's thing, his coaching would be like, it's only 26 miles. Go out there and run it. Shut up. Call me when you're done. I'll be like, is that it? He'll be like, yeah, that's it. You could walk, so you could run a marathon. Do you know Brandon Lilly? Do you know Brandon? He was a 2-time world champion powerlifter, and he blew his knee out squatting a whole bunch of weight years ago, and almost lost his leg and all this stuff. Weighed 340 pounds and has basically dieted and trained himself down to 220. But at like 265, he ran a marathon, and the doctor said that they didn't know if they didn't think he'd ever run again, and could potentially always have like a limp. And he's now done 2 marathons, and he's done them by himself. He went out in the morning and he just started going, and he was like, I'm just going to go until I get done with it. And one day he was in the airport in Chicago, and they kept bumping his flight. And so just out of protest, he walked a marathon in the airport just to piss everybody off. And he kept posting about it, how United kept knocking his flights off, which I thought was hilarious. It was like, you're the only person that did 26.2 miles with a backpack on in the airport just to be an ass, which was just fantastic. But he was a guy that just proved like, hey, I'm not built for this, but the mindset is you just go out and you do it till it's done, right?
So when you line up, so the Ironman I attempted last year was called the Keltman, and it's around about Torrington, and it's one of the hardest endurance events. I think there's 2 or 3 that claim to be the hardest Ironman, the Iron Distance Triathlon. That's one of them, and it's one of the hardest events on the planet. So it's a 3.8 kilometer swim in a really cold Scottish loch that's filled with jellyfish, and then 202 kilometers on those roads, and a marathon over Monroe's. When I'm at the the start, and it's full of tiny little Swiss guys and French guys, and I'm standing there, and it's like all these people looking at you like, why the fuck is this fucking gigantic man here? Because they're all tight, like 5'6", 8 stone. you're looking around it going, yeah, but none of you fuckers can deadlift 500 pounds, can you? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so, still trying it.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Still try it. Yeah, still try it. So yeah, and yeah, we're going back. I should have went back this year. Going back next year now. That's an incredible event. Super cool. So yeah, well, like I say, it's funny standing there and you go, yeah, none of you guys know how to armbar or whatever, but they're all super fast little guys who are doing it in
Yeah.
all times. But fuck it, man, I'll go back and give it another go and we'll see if we can get on. So yeah, it's cool. I love hearing those stories about guys, even bigger than I am. Just to prove that they can. It's so cool. I love to hear.
Yeah, because everyone has strength. Everything isn't always a strength, right? Like a strength to one person is a weakness to another. Depends on what you're doing it. Like I'm, 6'3". I go between 230 and 245 at times. Like that's really good for doing my old job. It's really bad for doing marathons and things like that. But it's like, it is what it is. We all have our different skill sets, right, and our different resources.
Yeah. So. But if we pull together, everybody can help each other, and we can all become awesome.
That's it. That's just like this guy lifts heavy stuff. This guy runs really far. That's how a country's built, right?
Yeah.
This an army.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. Just that mindset of. Everything doesn't have to be a competition. It's okay to suck at things. Let's try and get a little bit better at it. But it's cool. It's cool to suck at things. Like, it's one of those hard. It's one of those things that I think a lot of people struggle with not being good at. Like they shy away from things maybe they're not good at. Whether it's whatever, deadlift or a hammer throw or running. Like you say, I really can't run. Yeah, you can. Run a mile. Cool. I think David Goggins is one of the guys that said this. Tomorrow run 2 miles. It's just, you don't become Sorinex if you don't build a fucking squat rack. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen that way. It's like you want to be a huge supplier of fitness equipment. Okay, but you haven't built. A farmer's carry.
You need to go ahead and build some fitness equipment.
Yeah. do you know though? There's I was going to say there's the flip of that as well though, because a lot of people go the other way and end up in the shitty shape where they're 330 pounds of pure bubble gum, and then go, I need to get back in shape in 3 weeks, and you're like, dude, you didn't get 330 pounds in the space of 3 weeks. It took years to get there. Why do you think it's going to be done overnight? Do you know what I mean? But people again get caught up in that mindset, Chris, of I did it for 2 weeks and didn't lose any weight. Oh well, I'm just going to be 330 pounds for the rest of my life.
This is what I do now.
Not appreciate, as you say, you were the large size trousers. They're getting a bit tight. The XL. Damn, these 2XL are getting tight now. And before long, you're putting your belt on with a boomerang, and you really need to start losing some weight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that goes back to that long time thing. Anything worth anything is generally from a good bit of time. But to what Chris said before, I tend to like starting things that I'm bad at because, cheaply that gives you the highest probability of a really steep success rate, right? Of a learning curve. Because if I'm really shitty at it, well, then I'm going to get kind of good fast. Not good, kind of good. I'll get better, whereas if it's like, I'm going to go back to hammer throwing right now. Well, I was really, really good. I could probably train for the rest of my life and never get as good as I was. So that, to me, there's a part of me that goes, it doesn't sound fun. But like, hey, let's learn how to play guitar. All right, well, I'm going to be effing terrible at it right now. But I know if I take a lesson, I'll be a measurable amount of better. So that sounds super fun. And then I also kind of like the mindset I talk about, hunt weakness. Just hunt for your weaknesses. That's the quickest way to get good. Like when I was doing Highland Games, how I went from 53rd in the nation to basically winning worlds that year was I literally just said, okay, what's my worst event? My worst event is the sheaf, or my worst event is the caber, and I would just train the shit out of my worst event until that went up, because I found that was the fastest way to increase through the ranks. Find the worst thing that you're at and just go after that. I don't need to work on the hammer. I was a good hammer thrower. I never threw a hammer in training. And most people they love to do the stuff they love to do. And it's like, well, that's not going to make me that's not going to get me to a pro any faster. Doing the stuff that I suck balls at all the time, that's going to get me really good. And that was the fun part, because I'm addicted to the increase and the getting better, not the being the best. So I think the people need to notice that.
Absolutely. I mean, we could, me and Ali could relate to that on, just doing this podcast. You're like, fuck, man, we are, earlier this year going, we suck at this. We are not good at talking to people. And you just go, okay, you could either just go, we don't have to do this anymore. We can just not do it. Or you could just say, we'll have them, and let's figure it out. Let's try and, get better at it, and, listen a little bit better, and, do a little bit more research and digging on who we're talking to, and just get better. And now we're at the stage where we're a little bit less shit than we were, and hopefully in 6 months' time we'll be, a little bit less shit again. And it's, that's fucking life.
And then you'll sign with Spotify for $100 million. It's just how it happens, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that's how it happens. But it's just great fun. You get to have good fun, and you get to speak to cool people like you. It's for us, it's a really awesome. It's. If when we look back through the Skype list over the last 6 months, you look at it and you go, this is insane. This is crazy. Why the people we've talked to, it's like, it's so good for us, because, and I've said this so many times now, so sorry if anybody's pissed off with me saying this, but you speak to these people, and whether it was, Navy SEALs, we've had a few Navy SEALs on, Kelly Pavlik on, had FBI guys on, you yourself, and you realise that everybody is just a person trying to be good at it, and you build people up. I'm assuming Cam Haynes would be the same, or Joe would be the same. As you build people up like you could never aspire to, and then you speak to them and you go, oh, he's just a guy who's likes his kids and is making a living and doing what he loves to do. Like, they're not anything different. They're just people who do things. And it's doing this podcast has really reaffirmed that to us, that nobody's special.
Right. You're exactly right. And that is the same. That's the same thing I discovered, and it wasn't necessarily through podcasts. It was just through Sorinex or competing, and just I used to do it when I was competing in hammer throw. I would find whoever the best people were. If they just kicked my ass on the field, I would take them out and feed them beers and buy them a steak and just get them to talk to me, and then that would just they would basically share who they were as a person, what their mindsets were, and so I learned a lot from that. It was data mining. But what I also ended up walking away with, I went, wow, I've seen the ups and downs of a lot of these people, because then I became friends with them. I go, oh, they're people. They're people just like me. They deal with, a bad relationship at home, or kids, or money issues, or injuries, or all the same stuff that I deal with. It just so happens that their skill set is higher than mine, or their work ethic, or they have certain things they've done. And a lot of time it's just opportunity and time. And I go, okay, if that's a variable I could control, or I could keep working towards, then to quote another movie, what was it, The Edge, with Anthony Hopkins? He said, what one man can do, another can do. And you just kind of come to the realization that no one's magic, no one's overly special. It's generally just mindset or situation. Like, it sounds kind of grotesque, but like, I'm sure you've probably had like a stomach bug or stomach flu where it's coming out of all ends and you just feel like the worst gross person and you're like passed out on the bathroom floor and you're cold sweats and you just want to die, right? And you would never ever in 100 years want someone to see you in that position. It's totally vulnerable and demoralizing. Usually when I meet someone super famous or powerful, I see them doing that in my head because I know they've done it, and I know we've all done it, and I go, right, you've been totally grotesque and vulnerable before, laying on the bathroom floor wanting to die, just like I have. There's nothing different between us. You just have had different opportunities or different drives and different passions in a different amount of time to help you get where you are. And if I do the same thing a long enough period of time, I could also achieve whatever I want to achieve. You and I are no different. And once I realize that, then it's like the keys to the universe. You're like, oh, okay, cool. So there is no magic bullet. The magic bullet is we're all the magic bullet, and just go out and do it. And, hanging out with Rogan when we did his weight room, amazing guy, super awesome. He has certain key things he's incredible at, but he's still a guy. He's a really great guy. And some of his strengths are he's so gracious. He's such a nice person. He's so like those things that you would hope celebrities would be. You go, oh, that's part of your superpower. You treat people right. Thus, you build social capital and you do the right things. You listen very well. You do all these things that are all doable. And you got to where you are from a lot of damn hard work. And then you just go, okay, that's really cool because it's replicatable. And I think if doing a podcast gives you no more than just that perspective, it's totally worth it, right?
100%.
Yeah. The whole idea bit was, lockdown happened in Scotland, March. I just went, let's do a podcast, and we use some, quite lucky to know some, quite impressive people, from sports, an Olympian, and I have a boxing background, so I knew some, fairly decent boxers and stuff like this. And we just went, hey, let's do it. We'll be able to talk to some people and have some fun, and it passes the time because we can't do much else just now. So let's fucking do it. And then, Ali mostly started to get brave and start to email more and more people, and people were like, holy shit, okay, let's email this guy. And it's like, holy shit, he said yes. Fucking hell. And then, Ali, I showed Ali, but right before we spoke to Kelly Pavlik, so he was a hero of mine when I was boxing. I showed Ali on my watch. My heart rate was 120 beats per minute, sitting ready to speak to Kelly Pavlik. I was like, holy fucking shit, it's Kelly Pavlik. Fuck. And I was trying to calm myself down and not say something stupid. And then you speak to him, and he's just like, hey guys, what's up? Oh, hi.
That's it.
Kelly.
Hi, you're a person.
As you're saying, Chrissy, just because I do the majority of it, send emails out or messages or DMs or whatever. And there's times where people don't get back, and it's like, oh, well, they didn't get back, no worries. But, no skin, it's what it is. But there's times where, like with yourself, with a few other people, we get the reply and they go, yeah, I'd love to do that. And we literally, me and Chris will catch up and be like, so these people have agreed to come on.
Yeah, right.
It's hilarious.
And that just brings, it's kind of like, ask the pretty girl to dance, right? She's probably going to say yes because most people are too afraid to ask her.
Yeah.
And it's awesome what you guys are doing. Are you guys still locked down over in Scotland?
Well, possibly. There's a lot of rumours that we're about to go back in over the next couple of weeks. So there's been a bit of an easing. So we've been able to do a bit more, but there's been a bit of a spike in cases. And my kids, my youngest son's at high school, and they've just had, I think they're up to 5 cases. So half the school's currently under self-isolation for 14 days. So we'll see how it goes over the next few weeks.
And I am on the flip side of that, where I have no kids, and I was lucky enough to build myself a little gym in my garden. So
good deal. So you're like, we'll just keep going.
I've got a squat rack and a pull-up bar, and I can bench press it in there. So I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's lock us back down. I don't care. I'm just going to work out. Go find some health to run. So I'm fine. But yeah, it's I don't know. Are you guys locked down? Or are you guys
South Carolina? South Carolina, thankfully, never really got too far out of normal. I think it's due to a lot of reasons. We're not super populated. Politically, we're just not typical place that does that stuff. I'll leave it at that. And South Carolina is a lot like Texas. We don't like people telling us what to do, And so it's just like, all right, we're gonna not be idiots, but we're just kind of gonna keep going. And if we have to wear a mask to go into your establishment, okay, fine. I'll respect the establishment, or I just won't go in there. And so I've taken it from day one, talking to a lot of my doctor friends. And their biggest thing was, it's all about immune system and prevention. So 5,000 IUs of vitamin D per day, vitamin C, some antivirals, getting sleep, getting exercise, getting rest, like all that type of stuff and training. I've been around 3 different people that have had it unknowingly. Like at dinner with them at their house on the couch for 5 hours, and then 2 days later they had it. So, have I had it and not known it? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not afraid of it. I think it's more of a fear-based deal. And I think people need to do their part of being healthy. I think it's a wake-up call. I hate to say it, not to get political. I think it's a wake-up call for people to be healthy versus being afraid, because it proves that generally the healthier you are, the better chance you have with it. I don't see how this isn't a shot to the system for everyone to realize to start getting healthy. Not to get polarizing in the podcast, but I don't see anyone could argue with getting healthier in general is a bad idea. But maybe someone will yell at me about it.
I suppose there's some people that are surprised that the Pope's a Catholic in the same way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Just pissed off because I don't wear a mask everywhere and I'm not afraid. Imagine that.
This is one of the reasons when I think about going to. I don't want to go to Times Square or fucking LA. I want to go someplace like North Carolina and see real Americans and see real America. I don't Hollywood or
LA and New York is not real America. You are correct.
Yeah. I'd like to go to North Carolina, someplace like that, and
come to South Carolina. Come hang out.
It's
come to Sorinex.
Listen, when we're allowed to travel, maybe we'll. We've kept you way longer than we planned to, but we're like an hour and a half in. So I don't know if you need to get off, but
at some point. It's your show.
At this point, I'm going to get some beers and start getting crazy.
Tennents.
Get the Hulkamania out.
That's right.
No, I have in the fridge. I have some one of my favorite hills is Schahalian, and you get a Schahalian beer, and it's fucking lovely. Really nice. I've got a couple of fridges, and I'm sitting there going, I should just have one of those, but I think we've got to do some illegal jiu-jitsu in the morning. Sorry, illegal jiu-jitsu.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, we'll be doing jiu-jitsu in the morning. I don't even care anymore if anybody knows. But yeah, that's something that we still can't do. But so
you'll be back to training with rocks soon, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we'll be allowed to do.
That's one of those things. Just because you said earlier on, picking up big stones. I tried to pick up an Atlas stone once. I think it was 120 kilos. It was 120 heavy. If you were going to deadlift it, that's probably around about where I would start warming up. Trying to pick up 120 kilo Atlas stone.
It's super hard.
Yeah. What the fuck do you do? Insane. In fact, on a topical subject, it was I forget which Stoltman it was. The two Scottish brothers, the Stoltman brothers. One of them just broke the Atlas stone record. I think 286 kilos.
I think it was Tom.
I think. Yeah, and I think he's going for. I believe he's going for. He thinks he has a 306 in him. Atlas stone. Those are two. I think those might be the first time we've really had genuine contenders for the world's strongest man. The Stoltman brothers, and they're super strong. One of them broke the world record.
I have the original McGlashan stones that we're using the World's Strongest Man in Scotland. I have him here at HQ. Gregor Edmonds actually sold them to me. So he used them in the World's Strongest Man back in the day. And they're the ones that Kazmaier used and John Paul Sigmarsson used. And so we got both sets of 6 of them here. So
that's awesome.
It's something that I always, if I was bigger, I would have definitely gone to strongman. I'm just not big enough, because can't carry that weight. I'm just not big enough as a human being.
Oh,
I would have loved to have.
Yeah, you're what, 6'2", right?
It's no 6 foot.
6 foot. Okay. Yeah, but there were still strong men back in the 80s that were 6 foot, 6'1", even a little bit shorter. But even like Magnus for Magnusson, Magnus for Magnusson, he was 6'2" and a half, like 130 kilos. That is tiny now. Tiny for a strong man.
Yeah.
Like these dudes are so huge. I mean, some of them are 200 kilos, 6'7", and you're like, it's just a whole different animal, man.
Yeah, it's like
we've said a few times, or you have, Chrissy, on the podcast, the 3 things that every guy would love to be. Where we said, there's the 3 things that every guy, probably in the heart of hearts, maybe growing up, if you were given one of these 3 things, you would definitely take it. The world's 100 meters sprint champ, like the Olympic champ, world heavyweight boxing champion, or world's strongest man. If you were offered one of those as a kid, and that'd be like your ultimate, you'd be like, yes, please, I'll take one of those 3, no issues.
No question. Yeah, no question. Absolutely. I mean, those are just the basics, right? That's it.
Yeah. I'm one of those idiots that thinks that I could probably do all 3. That's the way my brain works. Like, it's impossible. Then I realize I suck at everything. But,
I tell my wife when we first met, she was a big baseball fan, and I never played. But I convinced her, or attempted to convince her, that based upon my size and athletic ability, I could probably pick up baseball and become a professional baseball player. And jokingly, of course, and then I would probably be able to play in the World Series by the time I was 40. And then so now, I'm 4 years past that, and I keep joking. Like, I'm like, well, I know I haven't started my career, but I still have a little bit of time. Like, she's like, okay, you're obviously realizing. But it's kind of one of those things in your head, that delusion. She's like, you're just delusional that you think you're going to start baseball. And then I was like, I know, but as long as I kind of think that, there's a chance of other less preposterous things to happen.
Talking delusions like that. I actually played American football over here in Scotland.
Oh wow!
I played wide receiver predominantly. And in the back of my head, I always thought, man, if I'd had the chance going to high school, going to a Div 1 school like Notre Dame or USC, or I could have made it to the NFL. It was just the fact I was in Scotland. That's the only reason. But then I did a season's internship with the Scottish Claymores from NFL Europe. I was a coaching assistant doing an internship. And that was guys who were like practice squad in the NFL, or guys who hadn't even made it to practice squad and had been sent over. And I saw the level of athleticism that those guys had, and I was like, nah, it's fuck all to do with the fact I'm Scottish. I just don't have the genes. I'm a 6'2", white Scottish guy. That's the reason I'm not in the NFL. Nothing to do with Scotland.
Yeah, this is a real thing. I mean, like, I did okay as an amateur boxer. I had one international match against Norway. And then I had some sparring camps and sparred some world class guys. And then you go, holy shit, there is levels to levels in this game, man. Like, in everything, there's just levels. You go, I'm quite, I was okay. I was okay. Right. And then you box internationals, you're like, oh, okay. And then you box, like, you do some sparring with a world class international, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, totally different animal. And you're just like, got it.
This is running with Cam Haynes. I can't do this. do you know, it's just crazy.
Yeah, Bert, do you remember Dante Hall that played for Kansas City?
I don't.
Nah, he got sent over by Kansas as a rookie, and I would run like a 4.840, which is fast for Scotland, but pedestrian for a wide receiver. And they were running 40s, and they're like, do you want to jump in, Ali? I was like, yeah. And I lined up behind Dante Hall, and he ran a 4.26, and I was like, nah, I ain't running.
yeah. We were in college. We had Terrence Trammell, who was actually a 2004 or 2004 Olympic medalist in the hurdles and the 110s. And he was a teammate of mine and just an absolute flies. Now, again, hand timed, wearing spikes on a track, but they ran 40s one day at practice and had two guys. This is on the University of South Carolina track team. Terrence Trammell ran a 4.09 40, and Jamal Williams ran a 4.19. Now, both of them were All-Americans. One was a multi-time national champion. People are like, oh, you're full of shit. He didn't run that fast. I go, take into account 2 years later, he won the 60-meter dash world championships against Maurice Green.
Yeah.
He had that type of speed. And then you just realize, you go, that was probably the fastest 40. Again, not on grass, not with cleats, whatever, hand time. But you go, that was probably the fastest 40 ever across the track of all time. Like, that is so freaking fast. And then you just realize, like, that guy played football in high school and didn't even play in college. You're like, there's dudes like that somewhere that are just like, didn't even play in college. Holy shit. They're so good. So good. And then I'm just like, yeah, I was pretty fast. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah, it's what's funny is the marginal, like, you know, if you think about your coin and you look at the margins, you go, I'm not that far away. So I did it once with a 500 meter indoor row, and I can't even remember what my time was. That felt quick. I felt strong throughout the whole thing. That was fun. I wonder what, just when I was sitting on the road, I think I was doing 2 or 3 sets, and I was sitting around. Yeah. Well, what's the world record for an indoor 500 meter? And then you go, holy shit! I'm only 10 seconds off the indoor 500.
Right.
Fuck! Holy shit! And then you look, like, in terms of times, it put me like in the world, but was all within this 10-second period. You go, okay, that margin is
right.
Ever get it. It's these margins, but it sounds like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
I'm
crazy.
terrible, really terrible. But yeah, it's these and again, yeah, I've done these things to understand. It's everybody loves the fan watching the fight, going, oh yeah, I would have done this. Yeah, you wouldn't have done it, man. I'm surprised you get up to go for a piss.
The bottom line is, for most people, if they're sitting at home watching something on TV and the person that's on TV doing it, you have no chance with them. Like, that should just be the goal that you just go with. Like, if he's playing football right now and I'm watching him, I can't play with him. Or if he's boxing right now, if I'm sitting at home, because if you were that good, you would at least be in the crowd at the fight or whatever. It's just got it. They're on a totally different level than me. I get it. It's just wild, man. It's good. So cool.
Yeah, people have this weird idea of their ability without having ever tried, and man, I don't know how to break this.
Like me with baseball.
The difference is, you're going to do it. You're going to do it, though. That's
great. I'll be great at baseball when I learn how to play. It'd be awesome.
You're going to run a marathon.
When I learn how to play, you've got a lot to do over the next couple of years. You better let the wife know that you're not going to be home often.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. I got to learn how to run marathons, play baseball. I mean, there'll be something else by the end of this conversation that'll take up my time.
You've got a lot to do, man. You've got to do that, get to Scotland, and can achieve all this shit. Oh man, right. We're now pushing on. Like, that's like an hour 45. I think we're taking up too much of your time. I feel like you could spend your day better than us two morons.
I'm having a great time, but I probably do need to go learn how to play baseball, though.
Yes, it's true.
You probably do. Man. I feel there's still a million things that we could talk about. Maybe we'll do it again at some point.
That'd be great.
But yeah, man, it was awesome. Yeah, man, but we might look into that. But yeah, like I say, I'd love to come to America to run some races. I'd like to come do a marathon or a triathlon someplace. because I think it's super cool to do that stuff. I just think it's cool to go away and have some experience at someplace doing a race and then grabbing a beer and a burger and just chill out. Yeah, I'll have a look, see if there's anything in South Carolina that looks good, and you never know.
Sounds good, man.
Okay, if you decide to come back to Scotland, man, absolutely hit us up, and we'll tell you some cool places to check out. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So
sounds great.
As we wind down, Bert, we always ask, just for anyone that wants to find out more about you, get more inspired, where can they find you on social media or the internet? And we'll tag this into the notes as well at the end of the podcast.
Sure, yeah. My IG and my Facebook is Bert Sorin, BertSorin. Sorinex is our company. Sorinex Outdoors is kind of our outdoor side of that, which is just some of the passions that I have and my dad has in that world, mixing that with strength. And Sorinex.com if you need any gear. I don't know how easy it is to get to Scotland right now, but we have before.
I think I look. I'm usually around about this time. I look at some new gear for the winter. So I'll check it out. The problem always with getting stuff from America is it's the cost of the shipping makes it outrageous.
Oh, yeah.
Like sometimes it becomes crazy. I've been going to certain t-shirts. I went to buy a Jocko Willink rash guard for jiu-jitsu once, and it was more for shipping than it was for the rash.
That pesky ocean,
Yeah, it sometimes makes it expensive. I'll check it out, man, because I love the gear. One thing that I wanted to ask you about was the. Did you see Squat-tober?
Squat-tober, yeah.
Squat-tober. Yeah, what's that? I just quickly before we go, I just wanted to ask you about
that. So this is the 5-6 years ago. Aaron Osmus and I were talking about just squatting and everything like that. And we're like, we didn't have like a month where we really focus in on just kind of the glory of a specific exercise. We're like, well, squat has to be the one, that's the biggest one. And so it was actually September when I came up with the idea, and I was like, we ought to do squat timber. And I'm like, oh crap, September's already started. We probably need to do a different month. And so Squat-tober just came out, and then we started it by doing just kind of posting some of the best squatters in the world and some of the history of the squat, different squat positions and things like that. And then Aaron had the great idea of writing a programming that you squat basically all month. And in a lot of, common training knowledge says you can't squat every day or anything like that. But he programmed it with the load parameters where you actually can. And the last day of the month, you actually come up with a new personal record. And this is the 4th or 5th year that we've had the programming of it. And it just kind of unifies the world of our lifting community. Goes, hey, man, all of us are going to be squat heavy this month. We're all going to go through this really tough thing together. We're going to do something that's almost like a marathon. We're going to squat every day this month, and everyone's going to think it's crazy. But at the end of the month, we're all going to have a big, super cool squat. Our legs are going to get bigger. We're going to get stronger. We'll know we did something together. So it's kind of like a marathon of a squat. And so the last day is when we do it. We call it the squat PR party. And we kind of now call it the world's largest squat party. I mean, we had 4 years ago, we had people in all the continents doing Squat-tober. And so we have literally everywhere in the world, there's someone following the programming and doing Squat-tober. And it's more just to build a community of people saying, hey, let's work really hard this month, do some amazing things that were deemed impossible. So that's how Squat-tober works.
That's awesome. I like it.
Hop on it. You're only you're day 6. You could jump on it right now.
Day 6.
Yeah, Sorinex Squat-tober. That's on IG on IG is Sorinex Squat-tober, and so every day we post the programming. So you don't get to know it a month in advance or 5 weeks. It's literally you wake up that day, you see what's on the program, you do the program, and you live day to day on it, and you just know at the end of the month you're gonna be strong as crap.
Nice.
So check it out.
I like it. I might tomorrow night will be some sort of leg session. So I may look at it and can jump on board for the next of the month. Definitely.
Yeah,
That sounds
yeah,
awesome.
hit
I like
it. Hit it. Yeah, you'll have to buy new jeans for sure.
Awesome. Right. Okay. I think I've got intelligent things to say. I don't really have intelligent things to say anyway. But for this moment, I've got intelligent things to say. But it was a real pleasure. And thank you for giving us your time. And we wish you all the best. We'll hopefully, maybe one day we'll do it in the studio.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Hat tip as well, Bert, because you now win the award for the most epic beard we've ever had on the Silly Goose Gang podcast. We've got a couple of good ones. My mate Chris Salmon's got a good one that's probably about 4 or 5 inches shorter than yours. Shout out to Barry Gibson. He had a good one, but I think you, hands down, have the most epic beard that we've ever had. So,
perfect.
Congratulations.
In fact, Ali, does that win Bert? Does that win a mug?
I think so. Silly Goose Gang mug for Bert.
Hey, I like that.
So.
We'll get that organised.
Cool.
We'll get that organised.
Get one out to you.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it so much.
Forget about your 4-time Division 1 All-American. It's all about the Silly Goose Gang mug for the
the Silly Goose Gang mug. Thanks, guys. I hope you all have a great night.
You too, Bert.
You too, mate. You too.
Episode 43 done and dusted. Bert Sorin, thank you so much.
Thanks, gentlemen.
The Silly Goose Gang Podcast.